Hello, and welcome to all of our viewers wherever you may be. My name is MK Smith.
And I'm Bassam Haddad.
And we are very excited to be back for Season 2, Episode 12 of Live with ASI, a month of knowledge production, covering the month of May.
And we are, at this point... Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry, we had another item blasting. So we are going to start episode 12 of season 2, and very happy you are with us.
Did you miss me, Bassam, since our
Sorry?
last? Did you miss me since our last episode?
Absolutely. It's been a long time, and I understand that a lot happened, and I guess we're gonna share a lot with our viewers.
Yeah, there's a lot going on at ASI. Good things.
We didn't plan anything silly today, but I think we don't have a problem with that.
I feel like we don't have to plan. It comes naturally.
Good. We have a great show ahead of us with the sixth annual Political Economy Summer Institute, a forthcoming Pedagogy JADMAG, Lebanon's recent parliamentary elections, a piece reflecting on the murder of journalist Shireen Abu Aqleh, the Navigating Anti-Authoritarianism and Anti-Imperialism project, and 2 new Connections podcasts with Mouin Rabbani.
And as always, we have some new text out now recommendations, as well as engaging interviews with Sami, Atallah, Mouin Rabbani, Qudah, and Lisa Wedeen. And as a reminder, you'll find all the content discussed today in the episode digest to be published on Jalaliya later this week.
So sit back, relax, and let's get to it.
We'll start today by talking about recently concluded 6th Annual Political Economy Summer Institute, which we refer to as PESI. For those that don't know, this multidisciplinary summer institute is intended to address the needs of doctoral students and scholars researching the Middle East who may not have received formal instruction in critical political economy at their own institutions.
The goal of the Summer Institute is to help foster critical political economy approaches to the study of the region by bringing together select faculty leaders and student participants for 4 days of intense discussion of key texts in critical political economy. In addition to the faculty-led discussions, the faculty-led sessions on topics such as state formation, imperialism, and labor, students presented and received feedback on their current research projects and the work they are involved in.
PESI is an important step towards creating a community of scholars working within the tradition of critical political economy on issues of historical and contemporary relevance to the Middle East.
So the Political Economy Summer Institute, in fact, is one of the major projects within the Political Economy Project, which you can find at politicaleconomy.org. And we actually can show you or go through a couple of scenes on the Political Economy Project page, which here it is, the Summer Institute, and this is the 2022 version. We have had a very intense and productive 4 days of political economy discussions with more than 9 instructors and about 15 fellows. We are very excited that everybody has had a remarkable experience. We have had these events for the past 6 years. I should say 7 years actually, but 2 of them, including this one, were online, and we are able to we will actually be sending out the call for the 2023 Political Economy Summer Institute, a call for applications. So if you are interested, just visit the politicaleconomyproject.org for more information.
All right. On May 15th, Lebanon held its first parliamentary elections since the 2019 national uprising. Sami Atallah wrote a piece for Jadaliya's Lebanon page analyzing the significance of the election, where established political parties frantically spilled money into their campaigns, while anti-establishment groups struggled to form viable political alliances.
Atallah also discussed the ramifications of the election's results as opposition groups performed surprisingly well, pushing out many incumbents from power and gaining 13 seats.
Fortunately, we have Sami here to break down the election for us.
Yes, let's bring Sami in. 1 second.
Welcome, Sami.
Yeah, welcome, Sami.
Hi.
We are trying to.
Thank you so much.
There we
Good
go.
to be on the show.
Hi, Sami. We can. You're a little far in terms of the audio. If you can somehow.
Is that better?
Now you're out completely. Unfortunately, we cannot
Oops.
hear you.
Let's see.
Okay, this is okay.
Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, so Sami, can you tell us a little bit about how the opposition fared during these past elections?
Indeed, and in fact, it was in a way a very.
Sami, it's for some
You can't hear
reason
me.
not working. If you can just speak directly into the laptop or it might actually
Yeah.
be.
Shall I remove my AirPod? Maybe let
Yeah.
me try it. Okay, can you hear me now?
It's better, yeah.
Better? All right. Okay, so definitely, as you very well said, we had a parliamentary election on May 15, and in many ways, the results were actually very surprising, particularly because the opposition won 13 seats. This is compared to 1 seat back in 2018. And that's actually came as a surprise to many. Now, I think two factors really played a key role. I mean, first, there's a high level of voter dissatisfaction with the performance of the ruling political parties. As you probably all know, Lebanon witnessed a major port explosion back in 2020. There's a major financial collapse that robbed people of their wealth and savings, and with the devaluation of the currency, their income. So that all provides sort of a fertile ground for the opposition to win. However, I would argue that was complemented by something very interesting, which is the intra elite rivalry or competition that also helped the opposition to actually gain these 13 seats. For instance, we see how certain elites, because they are also making sure that they maintain their electoral base, they chose to, in fact, probably send more votes to the opposition to beat their true rivals. And we saw this in particularly in the Shuf Alay region, where the Zaim Walid Jumblat wanted to oust his rival Talal Arslan for many years by giving more of his votes or votes of his constituency to the opposition groups. And in fact, he succeeded in pushing out his direct rival. We also saw that in Beirut, whereby Hariri, the former prime minister, did not run in the election. We saw some of his votes going to the opposition to undermine potential rivals to Hariri, who are, for example, Fuad al-Makhzoumi or Fuad al-Senora, who's actually in his own bloc. So we see all these mechanisms and intra-elite conflict, in fact, helping the opposition to gain so many seats in this election. And this is something I think is really important to build on, at least for the future, and to gain a better understanding of the results, that this were not only an outcome, in my opinion, of voter dissatisfaction, but also of this phenomena, what I'm calling the intra-elite rivalry. That's in a way the sort of the big answer to the opposition. We also saw other things happening whereby very quickly Hezbollah maintained its power or its seats. So Hezbollah did not lose anything in this election. We saw within the Christian community a shift between or from the Free Patriotic Movement to the Lebanese forces. But I argue that this shift is really for the leadership for the Christian community, but has no impact whatsoever on policy making, because they both hold very bad policies or socioeconomic policies that could actually help or benefit the people.
Thank you so much, Sami, for that incredibly comprehensive but also concise summary of what was going on in these latest elections. Before we let you go, we did want to ask, word on the street is that there's a new think tank in town in Beirut. Would you care to share?
Yes, we actually did.
Sure.
We did talk about this in person in Beirut, Sami, and everybody's excited to learn more about it. And we already published or reposted one of your articles, which is the one that appeared in the new think tank on Jadaliyya. So please inform us.
Yeah, very quickly. It's a bit surreal to actually establish a think tank in February 2021, especially in light of the financial collapse in the country. But we thought was really important. In fact, it's precisely this moment where we think Lebanon needs a group of secular, non-partisan group of people who can actually initiate socio-economic policies and put them on the agenda, because we're living in a financial collapse, an economic collapse. There is a bankruptcy, not financial bankruptcy, there's also an intellectual bankruptcy by the ruling elite and their surroundings. So we thought it's very important that we bring all the like-minded researchers, experts, activists under one roof, so we can initiate and place on the agenda socioeconomic policies that put citizens at the center of policymaking, at the center of the politics in Lebanon, whereby these people have been ignored for a long time. So in addition to this, I should argue that this thing is different than probably any other think tank in Lebanon, or probably in the region, or maybe in the world, because what we decided to do is that the founders of this think tank are themselves, in some cases, researchers and directors of other think tanks. For instance, our five directors, or five founders, Nizar Saghiye, who is actually the director of Legal Agenda, which is a major think tank that works on legal issues. Mona Fawaz, who is a co-director of the Beirut Urban Lab at the AUB. Karim Daher, who's also heading the Aldiq, which is an important network that works on fiscal policies, and Hala Bajani and myself. Us five, in fact, by doing that, we're connecting these different institutions and institutionalize this relationship through this think tank, along with a team of 12 people, many of whom are actually with me, formerly with me at the Lebanese Center for Policy Studies. We're actually decided to join forces and, in fact, take initiative and put an important socioeconomic agenda in Lebanon and impose it, because Lebanon really needs it at this time. So we're really excited about this, and thank you so much for actually publishing our first piece on Jadaliyya's website.
Thank you so much, Sami. That's very exciting and a lot to look forward to. And thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we definitely look forward to working together in the future and having you back on the show.
Thank you, Sami. Yeah, we'd like to have you as a regular guest here. Shukran.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Goodbye.
Bye. Next, some news in pedagogy.
Despite delay in producing the pedagogy document and manuscript due to the COVID pandemic, the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative is excited to announce the second issue of the Pedagogy JADMAG, with a variety of articles, interviews, and roundtable discussions on topics ranging from teaching migration to questions of precarity in academia. And I must say that this issue that we are producing once a year is a goldmine for educators. So grab it. You can find it on tadweenpublishing.com or on mesp.org. And it actually...
You're stealing my lines for later.
I'm stealing your lines?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Just so you know. It's okay.
All right, but at least it's only lines.
This issue features a centerpiece article by Ahlam Muhtasab on teaching Palestine through film, as well as two special resource collections from MESP. The first being the Essential Readings on the Left series, and the second being the peer-reviewed articles Review Bouquet on Race and the Middle East. Ooh. We'll have a brief intermission while we
Yes.
fix our teleprompter.
Absolutely.
Bennett. I'm muted. Now we're going to talk to you about a very special project that has been in the works for a long time at ASI, but is about to kick off tomorrow. The Navigating Anti-Authoritarianism and Anti-Imperialism project will host a number of workshops, panels, and conversations regarding the critical nuances at play when dealing with anti-authoritarian movements within the context of imperialism. The project seeks to address questions on the efficacy of current definitions, conceptual trade-offs, analytical thresholds, and so much more. We're very happy to have the amazing Lisa Wedeen with us to discuss what's to come for this project.
And Lisa Wedeen is trying to sign on, so perhaps we can go to the next segment and come back to Lisa.
Okay.
There she is.
There she is.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You always have a fantastic audio and a very good scene in the background and all around.
Thank you. It was nice to see you both.
Nice to see you
Same
too,
here.
Lisa. So we are very excited about this new project on navigating anti-authoritarianism and anti-imperialism. Can you quickly tell us about what you and the team hope to accomplish through this project?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a project entitled Navigating Anti-Authoritarianism and Anti-Imperialism, as was suggested, and it's been in the making for many years and actually predates the Arab uprisings, which delayed it further. And as Bassam certainly knows, Asla Bali and Aziz Rana and Arang Kashavarzian and Bassam and I attempted to pick up the pieces last year when we held initial meetings to address the topic, which has arguably become even more pressing since then. Admittedly, it's a wide-ranging theme, and it's posed profound dilemmas and raised probably more questions than answers in a changing world. So some of the concerns that inspired the project were considerations of what we mean when we talk about terms like imperialism, intervention, the seductions of authoritarian politics, and the erosion of democracy. How do we invite, we here, I mean scholars, organic intellectuals, artists, journalists, activists, and concerned citizens, think about these terms in an evolving, fast-paced world, and how do we understand the tensions among them when it comes to judging politically? And arguably, the uprisings brought some of these concerns into bold relief, and perhaps especially in countries such as Syria. On the one hand, there were alliances in the American context between some people on the left and some right-wing isolationists who argued that all intervention is bad. And some of those folks ended up sounding like apologists for the Assad regime and seemed to ignore the horrors of tyranny. On the other hand, there were many around the world in solidarity with parts of the Syrian opposition who demanded intervention, US and European intervention in particular. Between these two camps, crudely depicted here, were scholars such as Asla Bali and Aziz Rana, who were keen on pointing out that the US was already intervening, as was Russia, and that a Cold War politics was being rejuvenated in this context. The US armed regime opponents in the first phases of the uprising, for example, it had already produced conditions in Iraq for the rise of ISIS. The US also deputized Kurdish forces to serve as proxy ground forces, and the Trump administration used occasional and ineffectual airstrikes against regime targets. Bali and Rana argued that far from helping Syrian citizens, almost every aspect, and I'm quoting here, of the persistent US presence in Syria has dramatically escalated the violence and exacerbated the harm to its civilian population, unquote. Their argument, to put it clearly, was not in support of the Assad regime, although some read it in those terms. What they were trying to do was carve out a discursive space to denounce dictatorship while also illuminating the ongoing effects of imperial intervention. And despite major disagreements, and while Syrians on the ground continued to suffer the soul-crushing impact of tyranny and great power intervention, both regional and international, there was a point of commonality among these various camps. What all sides could agree on is that the US bears serious responsibility for the devastating human tragedy, whether by too much action or not enough or not the right kind. Some of our colleagues involved in this project are students of international law and of the war on terror and its global and domestic effects. All of us like to imagine ourselves as radical and agonistically inclined Democrats who care about justice and imagine possibilities for global solidarity in ways that de-provincialize the Middle East and provincialize the West, to borrow originally Dipesh Chakrabarty's term, also used by Yassin al-Hajj Saleh and others. In the first small workshop, MK and Bassam knows this already, we hope to pursue a key animating theme that brings us together, namely how we understand and think politically about the various dilemmas confronting us when protests for democracy and against authoritarian rule are supported by imperial powers. And we shall surely have subsequent workshops focusing on so-called case studies, for example, and I hope we can come back and talk about the project once it's really underway. We imagine that some invitees might choose to talk about the criteria needed for judgment in this first workshop. For example, whether some claims for ending tyranny are more salutary than others. Do class struggles matter more than other identity categories in generating support for ending tyranny? Does the likelihood of success matter? Does it matter which imperial power or set of exogenous forces is intervening? And we imagine some people might choose to talk about their personal stakes in the debates that circled around or centered on anti-authoritarianism or anti-imperialism, or both, or their intersection. What kinds of priorities, affective investments, and criteria were in play, and why those ones and not others? So that's basically to give you a sense of the background conditions that have enabled us to come to this point.
Thank you so much, Lisa. This has been actually much more than we bargained for in terms of the description of the project. I do have to say that I am extremely excited and proud that we have been able to pull this together. This is, as Lisa shared, a project that started way even before Jadaliyya was launched in 2010. It's a product of several conversations in 2008 and 9 with a number of interlocutors, which then were interrupted by not just the launching of Jadaliyya, but also the Arab uprisings, where these very topics became not just extant, but they became the order of the day until recently, of course. We have a number of cases that we will be discussing, including Syria, Libya, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, and of course, the Turkey and Ukraine and other cases can come into play in various ways. This is also only within the Middle East. It also is a project that will attract a number of contributions from outside the Middle East. As my colleagues put it when I was calling back and forth with folks to put the team together, basically everyone said that this is the question of the day. And Asli Bali's coining of that phrase was followed by the same phrase by everyone else, that this is the question of the day in so many ways. So we are very excited to have this. And me and my partner in crime, myself and my partner in crime, Lisa Wedeen, are basically shepherding this along with the first closed workshop, as we mentioned this week, but then it will be followed by other workshops. Unfortunately, the first few workshops will be closed, and then we open to the public and we expand the pool of interlocutors. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on
Yeah,
and
may I just
sharing.
add one thing,
Please.
Hassan, to what you just said, which is one key objective of these workshops is, at least to my mind, is to scale the impasses of our own current thinking,
Yeah.
to get unstuck from positions and paradigms that are no longer doing affirming work, and to find new openings, new forms of solidarity, to consider the importance of action, but also of stepping back and reflecting and to think outside the box, to put it in cliched terms, in ways that are at once both frightening and salutary. In other words, unmooring and provocative and challenging to our own conventional comfort zones.
Absolutely. And this is, unfortunately, as we have discussed, you and I, Lisa, and others, something that will likely recur. So hope that people can tune in the future when we open this up to a more of a public discussion and engagement. And thanks again, Lisa, for
Thank you so
being
much.
for being so available to join our show. And as I shared with you privately, maybe you will join us in co-hosting the show one day.
Yes.
I would love that. That would be such an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Habib.
Thank you, Lisa.
Salam.
Bye bye.
Bye.
And as usual, Jadalia, co-editor and podcaster extraordinaire, perhaps, Mouin Rabbani was busy last month publishing 2 new episodes of Connections.
If you aren't already familiar, the Connections podcast combines journalism, analysis, and scholarship to offer timely and informative interviews on current events and broader policy questions, as well as themes relevant to knowledge production.
In the episode titled The Libya Intervention Revisited, Mouin interviewed former head of the UN mission in Libya, Ian Martin, regarding the 2011 military intervention, and examined the role of the UN, the policies adopted by NATO and regional states, and the various Libyan parties and their lasting impact on the crisis in Libya.
Mouin also spoke with war correspondent Nabih Boulos regarding the war in Ukraine, where they looked at various dimensions of the conflict and its global impact.
And it is our pleasure to have Mouin with us now to talk about these conversations.
There we go.
Hello, Bassam.
Welcome, friend.
Hi, Mouin. We are accustomed to having you on this show and to being the more active podcaster at the Arab Studies Institute and Status Al-Wada. So we are happy to see you again and would like to ask you to share some of the main insights from your recent conversations on Connections.
Always a pleasure. I had 2 podcasts in May. The one with Ian Martin, as you mentioned, and it's not often you come across someone who not only writes very clearly, but also speaks as clearly as they write. So that was a real pleasure. And basically went into the genesis of the Libya intervention in 2011, 2012. Why Libya, why then, and so on. And Ian Martin was able to put forward the panoply of circumstances that produced that, and also key issues that led it to end so disastrously in the following years. And then the second one was, as you mentioned, also with LA Times Middle East editor Nabih Boulos, who was in Ukraine at the beginning of the conflict and has been there since and will be going again soon. And he provided a number of really useful insights, not only into the conflict, but given his regular reporting beat, also the very significant differences between Western reaction in particular to the war in Ukraine on the one hand, and to issues like Syrian refugee flows to Europe, the campaign against ISIS. And I thought he summed it up very well when he said, that the Russians are basically using a universal playbook, and to suggest that the US or NATO or whoever was doing anything differently, whether in Raqqa or Mosul or Baghdad some years ago is just pure illusion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I want to remind our viewers that both of these exciting episodes, as well as all of the episodes of Connections, are available on statushour.com. And these two particular thoughtful and informative interviews will be linked in the episode digest, which will be published in the coming days on Jadaliyya. Now, before we let you go, can we ask what other interviews and episodes you have in the works that you might like to share?
Yes, this Friday morning, I'll be interviewing the journalist Dalia Hattouqa, who also did a quick thoughts recently regarding the summary execution of the legendary Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Aqleh on the 11th of May. And we'll be looking not only at the murder, but perhaps more importantly at its aftermath, the propaganda war, if you will, where Israel is trying very much to do a reprise of what they did at the outset of the Second Intifada with the murder of the Palestinian child Muhammad al-Durra in Gaza, and basically have people conclude either that the situation is too complicated to draw a conclusion about what indisputably happened, or even that she was the victim of Palestinian fire. And in July, we're hoping to have a series based on the 60th anniversary of Algeria's hard-fought and hard-won independence in 1962.
Thank you. I know I, for one, am definitely looking forward to watching that episode on Friday.
Are you?
Yes. Do you hear it in my voice?
No. It just seemed like a templated thing to say.
It's not in the script.
Sorry?
You're blocked.
I'm just jealous that people are excited about you, Mouin, about your podcast. Actually, I'm your biggest fan, so that's not true.
Well, and I'm yours, so we're good.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks
And
for having me on.
We really appreciate that. And then we have to say that your background and the lighting this time is really perfect. I don't know what you did. Maybe you changed countries or shaved or something.
I did nothing, so maybe that's a tip for the future.
All right.
That's
Something to keep in mind.
Salam alaikum.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
We're going to take a brief break. Very brief. Next, we have an exciting piece from Jadaliyya's Arabic page to share with you all.
The Arabic page editors marked as well as Assafeer collaborators marked the 40th anniversary of Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon by commemorating the Assafeer newspaper, which was the only newspaper to refuse Israel's order to cease publication. And we have none other than Rab'ia Salman from Assafeer to tell us more about this project. We are very excited to bring on Rab'ia, who is in Beirut and admittedly was asked last minute to join us, and she obliged. Thank you, Rab'ia, for joining us.
You're welcome. Anything for you, Sam.
Ahlan wa sahlan, Rab'ia. I was just with Rab'ia and the Assafeer team in Beirut a month ago, and we planned this entire series, and Rab'ia and Ahmed are the ones procuring the material, with Hanadi producing the translation and beyond. Rab'ia, what can you tell us about the 40th anniversary of Israel's invasion of Lebanon and how Assafeer dealt with it, but also tell us a little bit about the broader project of Assafeer's archives.
Okay, so I'll start with the Assafeer archives. Assafeer archives started in 1973 when the newspaper was starting, and we have a huge amount of clippings and articles and photos and negatives, and we have them digital mainly now. And in 2016, when Assafeer closed the newspaper and stopped publishing, we decided to start working on the archives and to go online. And because of COVID and 2019 and all the issues happening in Lebanon, it was delayed until March 2022 when we went online with the archives, and we took the decision that the archives will be open for free for all those who are interested, because we thought that it's a public issue for us, that it should be open to all. So that's our archives. It has all the articles, interviews, um, anything that was published in Assafeer from 1974 till 2016, 26 March 1974 until end of 2016. I can't hear you, Bassam.
Thank you, Rabia. I'm just trying to use this new camera because we have it. And no, because it's just a change of scenery. We also have this one.
Hello.
Yeah, we're just very excited about this because we didn't have them set up properly before. Rabia, thank you very much for this. Thank you very much for this intro. Can you tell us a little bit about the On This Day project, which is a monthly series starting with the
Yes,
anniversary of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982, if you don't mind?
exactly. Well, it's a collaboration with Jadaliya, and we're going to be publishing once per month حدث في مثل هذا اليوم, on this day. And we started in June, and because it was June, we thought of the Israeli invasion of 1982, because Assafeer was the newspaper of the Israeli invasion, in my opinion, of course. Because we were as you said, the only newspaper who refused the Israeli help me here. I can't find my word.
Blocking and banning.
Exactly. And on August 4th, the 4th of August 1982, we were the only newspaper that was published in Lebanon. And actually, it was distributed just in the Hamra area because there were no traffic, no nothing. So it was distributed by hand. And we wanted by that to take a stand and say that the Israelis do not tell us what to do, first. And second, we wanted the world to know what was happening. That's why we distributed the newspaper by hand, and we went to the hotels that were nearby where international journalists were there, and we want them to be our voice. And when Jadaliya asked us to work with them, we thought it was the best way to have our voice heard where it should be heard, meaning that the archives of Assafeer and the Assafeer newspaper can be reached through Jadaliya.
Thank you,
by
Rabia.
working with Jadaliya, I mean.
Thank you, Rabia. This is a project that we are all very happy and proud of, and we are likely to not just publish one, as you and I and Ahmed and Nadia had our meeting in Beirut. We're also hoping that we will be able to publish more than once a week, a month, not a week. لا هيدا كتير هيك. Once a month. And you know, it all depends on actually the events and the concentration of events. Even though we're going to go for more than 1 year, so we could actually save certain events from a month to the following year. I also want to point out that we're also publishing some of the ads that appeared in the paper, which are the favorite item for so many people. Already have told us that they really enjoy looking at the kinds of ads that were used to basically advertise things. You know, this is the Fiat ad,
Yeah.
which is something that means a lot to all of us. Just the sight of it, not the consumerist aspect, but just the sight and the cultural symbolism of
Exactly.
it. So we are and
Yeah.
this is Crush, which is something that I drank a lot of in Beirut during the invasion. Actually, I was in Beirut.
So it brings memories, not only bad
Abs-
memories, also
yeah,
good memories.
good and bad memories. And here are the
Exactly.
slideshow from the Assafeer's archives, which you could easily go through on Jadaliya. It is there we go.
Right on the front page. First item.
Yeah, first item on the front page. You could just check out these pictures. I don't know why it's not loading. So please feel free to peruse this archive as well as check back with us regularly about how we are moving forward with this project, and look out for our July on this day project. شكرا كتير شكرا ربيعة،
شكرا لك.
وبنشوفك ببيروت قريبا. هيدا اذا بيروت بتضل موجوده طبعا، لانه الوضع
الله
ببيروت.
يطمنك.
تسلمي تسلمي. No, I'll be seeing you next month actually. شكرا ربيعة. Thank you so much. السلام
Thank you
عليكم.
so much. Bye bye.
هلا هلا. We are going to go for a very quick break, and we will be back in what is it? 2 seconds.
2
This break
seconds,
is no
2.5
good.
seconds.
This break is no good.
Wait,
What kind of a break is that?
it's fine. It's fine.
Bennett, we should do a shout out for Bennett for today being in the studio and handling the job that Muhammad usually does, because Muhammad is away at a conference. He's a mover and shaker, but he's also with us, Muhammad, in the back on the back end. Thank you, Bennett, for being here and for producing some of the videos for LWA.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. So
I love how he raised his voice a little bit. Actually, we do have a mic for you. We'll use it next time.
okay.
We're just afraid that if you are not like shackled a bit, like it will.
We're afraid you'll like overshine us.
Yeah.
And then we won't have anything to
Not even in
do.
the
Outshine
camera
us.
and I'll overshine.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, moving on to a much more somber topic. We are all heartbroken to hear about the killing of iconic Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Aqleh by Israeli forces during a raid on Jenin in the West Bank. Jenin.
Sorry,
Afwan.
I didn't mean to.
Jenin in
All right.
West Bank last month.
It is difficult to overstate how significant Shireen was to Arabs and Palestinians around the world, and how much this loss has affected so many people. Namaz Qudah penned an article for Jadaliya's Arabic section reflecting on Shireen's death, and LWA producer Muhammad Abu Ghazala spoke with her recently, and we would like...
Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's take a look. We would like to share this video. We also have another quick interview, which actually was not so quick ultimately, with Noura, Erakat, which we will show at the end because it's pretty long. So we decided to show the whole thing after we finalize the show. This way we will not cut any parts of it. So here's the interview with our first interviewee, Namaz Qudah.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be joined today by Namaz Qudah, who is a doctoral researcher at Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. Namaz, you recently wrote an Arabic piece for Jadaliya titled Fi Wadah Shireen Abu Aqleh in response to the tragic killing of the widely beloved Al Jazeera journalist. Can you say a few words on what drove you to write this piece?
Okay. So I guess the reason that drove me to write this piece stems from a personal attempt to understand and process the feelings and the memories that I went through on the day of her killing. As I have explained in the piece, this particular incident brought back so many memories from childhood, and it reminds me of all the times that I have actually sat down to watch her. Sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily, more with my parents, always having Al Jazeera in the background. So I wrote this piece as a way to anchor these feelings and try to give them names and titles, because when it happened, it was extremely overwhelming. And I do think that I was grieving losing her, and I wanted to engage in an act where maybe talking about it with other people, writing about it will allow us to grieve together, because people all around the world knew her and loved her in the Arab world. And I got on Twitter, I started to read what people were talking about, and then I started to read testimonies from her friends. And that kind of made me feel better about it. So I decided, okay, now I'm going to sit down and talk about it as a way to comment on that day. That started with the moment I woke up and my mother told me that she had been killed. And then me sitting in front of the TV for hours, just watching the news and all the details of what went on. And then I went to a small solidarity gathering in Al-Kaluti in Amman, where I was at the time. And I also wanted to comment on that because there was something in that event that was so surreal, how staged everything felt at a certain moment. So to answer your question, I think it was more of an attempt to understand and process the feelings of that day and kind of put words to it so I can maybe process it better. And does this directly relate to my work? It does not. But I always use writing as a way to make sense of things. And I'm looking into Palestinian refugee camps. I'm an architect. And for the longest period of time, I used sketching and drawing and visual material to make sense of the environment around me. But then I realized that I can also use words to try and make sense of events that happen. And this is what I'm trying to do with my research, my doctoral research as well, where I investigate Al-Wahdat camp in Amman, Jordan, and I try to make sense of everything that is going on over there by writing about it. And writing in that sense becomes a tool of investigation and excavation rather than just documentation.
Thank you so much for that, Nama. It's truly a very emotional and beautifully written, reflective piece, and I encourage all our readers to find it in the episode digest in the coming days. Again, thank you for making the time to talk to us today. Best of luck with everything on your research, and I hope you'll continue to be writing for the Jadaliyya in Arabic or the English section.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, of course. Yallah, salam.
All right, salam. Bye-bye.
Also last month, Jadaliyya co-editor Noura Erakat went on CBS News to discuss the prospects for a fair investigation into Shireen Abu Aqleh's killing and addressed whether or not Israel is capable of investigating itself. I'll take over.
No, I got it. The thing is that this thing was bothering my ear and I took it off. I'm sorry. We quickly spoke to Noura about her discussion. Let's take a look. Noura recorded the answer to the question I posed, so we're just going to play the response, and we are very excited about having this last
we still have new text
contribution.
out now.
Oh, we have a new text out now. So why don't we do a new text out now, and then we'll close with Noura's interview because it's about 8 minutes.
Perfect. As always, we have some new texts out now to share with you. The Egyptian Labor Corps, Race, Space, and Place in the First World by Kyle J. Anderson joins the increasing effort to talk about race and the afterlives of slavery in the region. The book brings critical race theory into conversation with Egyptian history in an attempt to elucidate the lived experiences of rural Egyptians during the war and illustrates parallels between African American and Egyptian history.
Our second Newton is the Routledge Handbook of China and Middle East Relations, edited by John Fulton. The volume is an attempt to counter politicized analysis and punditry about China relations in the Middle East and presents a rigorous and balanced analysis based on empirical data, with the hope that it would inform the work of researchers and policymakers.
And that is what we have for you today with regards to new text out now. So,
is it?
Yes.
Really?
And Jed.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. See?
I see. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Well, and before we leave, I would like to send a very big a love sign, which
Oh, you
is-
were excited to do that one.
and a big congratulations to MK for graduating from her master's program at the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies with an MA in Arab Studies. And here's the laugh.
Thank you, Bassam. And thank you for all your support and the support of everyone at
been
the
waiting
Arab
to do-
study.
I mean, I know I'm happy you graduated, but I've been
But
waiting.
really, you wanted to do that.
I just
you
wanted to
use
put the heart at a time when it's
If
not
only I'd
cheesy. And
graduated
it's
sooner.
been 2 years. Why didn't you graduate before?
I'm sorry. I took as many classes as they let me.
It keeps on burning.
Just like your love for me.
Let me put it out with some water.
Wow.
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 I've been waiting for 2 years to do this.
Wow.
Oh my God, look at the same time. Bennett, why are you laughing hysterically? This is like her graduation. Tell us a little bit about, is there anything to share about, are you excited that you graduated?
I am excited. I will say, all I'd ever heard about grad school is how competitive and cutthroat it is, which of course at times it is competitive, but I really had the best cohort and we really supported each other and no one was ever looking to bring anyone down. We just wanted to uplift each other. And so I'm so thankful for them. I'm sad that I won't see them every day now. But they were great. And also all of my peers at ASI were so helpful with so many different projects I was working on and just supporting me intellectually and emotionally. So thank you.
Very
especially
happy.
Bassam.
Habibti, I'm so happy that you're graduated and look forward to whatever awesome things you're going to do in the future. So, and now we will go back to our final segment of the day, which unfortunately is a much more somber segment about the killing by the Israeli soldiers of Shireen Abu Aqleh, who actually, as we shared, has been an iconic figure in journalism who presented Palestine to younger men and women rising up to find out about the world. People like Noura, Erakat, who will be speaking now, Shireen Saeli, and others have actually all expressed on social media and otherwise, or in articles or in interviews, how Shireen Abu Aqleh was formative in their understanding of the region from a while ago, of not of the region of the conflict, and recognizing what is going on the ground in Palestine. So we will go to the interview with Noura and then we will close. So we will say our goodbyes. Now, thank you for being with us. Thank you for staying with us for this second year, 12th episode. I think we have one more episode before we close out the year, and then we will take a break in August before we return in September. Thanks to the entire team, especially the producer Muhammad Abu Ghazali, to Kat Haseman, to Bennett Spear, of course,
Raina Newsom.
Killy, MK Smith. Why did I say Killy? Do I have something here?
No, no.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
disregard.
And
Disregard.
to Elena Newsom and others who participate in working on this project, including Carly Krakow and a number of other people that have been instrumental for the past couple of years in putting this together. Thank you all, and let's move to the interview, if you will, with Noura Erakat on Shireen Abu Aqleh's killing.
Hello, my name is Noura Erakat. I'm a Jadaliyya co-founding editor. I am an associate professor at Rutgers University, New Brunswick in the Department of Africana Studies in the program in criminal justice. About 1 month ago, Israeli forces shot to kill Shireen Abu Aqleh, may she rest in peace and power, a veteran Palestinian journalist with Al Jazeera Arabic, who became renowned for her reporting, especially during what is commonly known as the Second Palestinian Intifada, which she reported on with extreme courage, consistency. She helped to shape and define a profession for us. As the Palestinian Feminist Collective have described Shireen, she is a school. It is for that reason that her assassination shook Palestinians to their absolute core. It was not expected, even though Israel's killing of Palestinians and the targeting of journalists in particular is quite systematic. This came as an utter shock and surprise because the shot that killed Shireen was a precision shot right beneath her helmet, under her ear. She was clearly identified as a journalist. Whoever shot her meant to assassinate her and meant to shake the core of Palestinian morale. precisely because of who she was for all of us. She had brought up a generation. She had taught us so much. She had created a new field in terms of the profession of what it meant to be a Palestinian journalist. She had many opportunities to leave, to report in different places. She insisted on remaining. And it was so that on the morning, the dawn, literally, of her being on duty in Jenin refugee camp, that this took place in the audience of other journalists. I, along with many Palestinians, was gutted. And for that reason, despite the flood of requests for us to speak, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know for myself, despite the request to speak on Shireen's assassination, I just could not find my voice. I was both, for the first time in a very long time, shaken and sad and wanting to mourn her and to respect her, to really just step back and look at this moment, to bear witness and take into account the ease with which Israeli officers can kill Palestinians with impunity. There was, I think that the purpose of this assassination was exactly that, is to let us know that there is no one that will protect us. There will be no accountability. There is no external force that will come to protect any Palestinians from the harm that they endure, that they will be oppressed, killed, and blamed for their own suffering and death. And that was a lot to take in. That was a lot to take in, even for those of us, and again, I'm speaking only for myself, who have been doing this work for a very long time, just to know that however much we are pushing this boulder up this hill, that at the end of the day, that precarity of our life is so vividly real. And so even so, I mean, the aftermath of her assassination revealed that to us and reinforced it to us, when other journalists could not just bring themselves to admit that she was assassinated by Israeli forces because of their commitment to protect Zionism and what we know as colonial apartheid, that they could not even, they could only speak of her as, you know, her killing as in the passive voice, that, you know, veteran journalists shot in the head, but not assassinated. You know, she died. It was in the, sorry, they didn't even say shot in the head, that she just died, that it was just a passive, you know, unfortunate event that had taken place. And so there was, you know, on top of having to mourn her death, then watching, you know, and bearing witness to the cowardice of a journalistic corps that could not even, for their own sake and their own interest and their own status, this could have been them in some other field, that could not have, even in that moment, said the truth about Shireen. Later, it was, you know, CNN actually in their own documentation revealed that it was, could not have been a Palestinian gunman that shot her. You know, there's something quite nefarious even about that accusation, right? There's this just consistent racist pivot to insist that Palestinians do not love one another or themselves enough that that would have even been possible. B'Tselem released a report, CNN released their own investigation. Israel then said it will not conduct an investigation, knowing full well how controversial it would be both to identify the shooter, because the shooter had to have been given an okay from a top general. That general had given an okay from a legal advisor, a military legal advisor. The whole tree is rotten. And they were not prepared to throw down one person, and it would have revealed just how rotten this entire system is, and that accountability would have meant no less than accounting for an apartheid system. That's a crime against humanity, and that's completely immoral, and that has been proven to be immoral, but because of those who are oppressing are Zionist Jews, and those who are being oppressed are Palestinians, and the racialization of those two groups has it as such that the world has become passive and accepting and almost numb, almost expecting Palestinians to die, because that's how racism and colonialism have trained others to bear witness to this moment, which is precisely why we struggle as much as we do. That training must be reversed. That has to be revealed. Oh, and I've said nothing about the funeral that happened as the pallbearers were attacked in the middle of Jerusalem as they carried her casket. It almost fell to the ground. I mean, this was all quite heartbreaking. By the time I made any media appearances, I think I had just been stunned into silence for so long, and just, wanted to emote all those feelings in the most analytical way that I could, to comment on the nature of Israel's investigation, which from the beginning we knew would be inadequate, because Israel has proven itself to be inadequate, and for the reasons that I mentioned, because the whole system would have been on trial, but it is also inadequate because it has a track record of inadequate investigations in Gaza, in Jenin, even of the killing of its own, who they call its own citizens, of Palestinian citizens of the state in 2000. And so that was the nature of my media intervention, in addition to some media interventions to demonstrate, this kind of PR spin that Israel puts on all of the violence that it uses in order to reveal how it's predicated on anti-Palestinian racism, but that it operates in lockstep, to put out a disinformation campaign, PR spin, so that you end up debating, you can mourn Shireen, but you can't really blame anybody, right? And so those were the interventions that I did. And nothing is really enough. We're about to hit 1 month since her murder. And we continue. And salute to the Palestinian journalists. That was the other reason many of us, again, myself, I didn't want to speak, because I felt like this is the risk that Palestinian journalists take on every single day. We salute you. And that this was a moment for them to speak, both for their colleague and on their own behalf. So, with that, we will continue.
Thank you, Noura, Erakat, and everyone else. Thanks for listening and staying with us. We actually decided to stay.
Any opportunity to have all eyes on me, I'll take it.
She's the most modest person, by the way. I don't know why. We kind of put this on purpose in this script, but we wanted to stay because we were listening, and we got a little teary-eyed. Anyway, we are going to break now. Thank you for joining us, and we hope
conclusion.
We're
not coming back from break.
Please be sure to check out the episode digest on Jadaliyya later this week for links to the content we covered today. Thanks to all our guests and viewers. We're taking a break next month. The month after next.
August.
And we will see you in early July.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great.
Assalamu alaikum.
Let's roll those credits.